So get ready for a talk about the case of the bloody iris. Two special guests coming up in a second, intro, and we will go.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
Hey, everybody, welcome once again to the Late Late Horror Show. I'm Dino, as always. And yes, I got two guests in the back here, the green room, and they're going to come out in a second and talk about this 4K Ultra HD and Blu-ray set of the case of the bloody iris. Talk about the restoration. This is going to be a really cool discussion. First, I will say hello to everybody in the chat. And by the way, the description to all the links, social media, website, Amazon, all these links where you can go get this 4K Ultra HD or Blu-ray by Celluloid Films. I opened this up last night and I was so impressed. I mean, the way they cleaned this up, and I will ask Guido in a second here, and the color looks so good. The color grading by Lucas is just fantastic, and we'll talk about all of that. Very interesting discussion we are going to have on the restoration of old film. I thought that in itself was a very, very cool thing, and I can't wait to talk about it. So hello, Edward Stewart, Kathy Evans, Ed Stathis, Sweet Indigo. Who else is here tonight? Let's see. Connie, of course, Tune the News. Good to see everybody in here today. Please hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And definitely check out the links below in the description. If Connie could put the link to Celluloid Dreams, the website, every now and then. Connie, if you don't care, please do. That would help out and that would be good. But boy, listen, I'm going to show some pictures and everything else on this thing up close. But I rewatched this last night, and everybody knows what a Giallo fan I am. And this movie is just fantastic. If you look at the old footage, like wherever you get your hands on it and look at it, this copy everything just pops. The color pops. Again, I heard him talking in another interview about the details in the background. Even though it's film, you take the whole process. We'll talk to them about that. They know more than me. Bobby Dangerously, what's going on? Good to see you. Gabrielle Balbinat, I think, not sure. Good to see you guys here today. Let me introduce them. This is Guido Henkel and Lucas Henkel, Celluloid Dreams. How are you guys doing?
Great. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you guys for reaching out and sending me this. This is fantastic. And you guys, all of the details on how the process that you guys go through with the restoration of all of this is just unbelievable. I think I heard Guido say this took about a year, 6 months with him, and then color grading with Lucas, another half a year, really. So this is a passion project, and I do want to know more about that, and we will get into all of that. But the case of the bloody iris, favorite of all the Giallos, the one that was available. What was the process in picking the case of the bloody iris for your first release? For Celluloid Dreams, a boutique home video label that you guys created. And why'd you pick this one?
Well, when we were first coming up with the idea of the label company itself, we were creating a short list of movies that we particularly had an interest in and enjoyed. And as we were tracking down all of the possible licenses and what we could grab and what we couldn't, Case of the Bloody Iris was coincidentally one that was very close to the top in terms of both the short list and was one that we were actually able to quickly find and make contact with. Because it was one of those things where trying to get in contact with some companies was a bit iffy in some points. Some companies took forever to respond. Some companies never did. Some said we won't license you yet, probably because we didn't have anything substantial yet. So it kind of became this thing where it was the perfect title. It was one that we enjoyed. We have a lot of fun watching it in the past. It was one that hasn't had a US release since Anchor Bay, which I actually have right here. Fun little DVD. And so, yeah, it kind of became a circumstantial thing that fit and ticked all the check boxes.
Yeah, it was kind of a right time, right place sort of thing. We had our short list, like Lucas says, and what happened was we were soliciting avail lists from various distributors, just to get a sense for what movies are actually available at this point of time. And when the first lists came on, we skimmed them, we went over them, and noted certain movies here and there. And all of a sudden, we look through this list, and here is the case of The Bloody Iris. Nice. And to be honest, we hardly could believe our eyes because it was on the top of our short list. One of the movies where we said this would be the ideal candidate because it hasn't been released in a very long time, because there's not even an HD version available in the US. And because it's a really fun movie that we both loved and enjoyed. And then, to come out of the gate with an Edvige Fenech and George Hilton movie, we just thought, there is win, 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 win. And we grabbed that as quickly as we could.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, I mean, yeah, like you say, Edwidge Fenech and George Hilton, and I mean, staples of Giallo, right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. There's so much to love about Bloody Iris, but the movie in itself, and we'll get into talking about the restoration, but it's on your short list. So, favorite Gialli or not really? What could I ask you guys your favorite Gialli?
I have a handful that I would say I personally love, that I know some people don't love, and I admit I would love to do it someday. But as for the most typical answer, I would say either Tenebrae is the top of my list, or The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. They're pretty high up on the list. Generally, the Animal trilogy I always loved as Argento's best and my personal favorite. And I always kind of just enjoyed when he did his side tangent projects in the 80s where he tried different fringes of the genre, where he tried different territories of the supernatural, revisited the spirit thing. But yeah, that's
Phenomena. Okay, yeah. Guido, how about you?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of Tenebrae, but absolutely, Tenebrae is probably my favorite one, along with Deep Red.
Okay, yeah. Everybody I think on this channel knows Deep Red is my favorite. I've said that over and over and over. But okay, yeah, good choices. Oh boy, I don't even know where to go from here, because the restoration process, and like Lucas said, and then Guido said, and I've heard you say this before, just getting a movie, the process of getting a movie is so hard and so difficult, especially an up and coming boutique label like you guys. Which again, I mean, nothing against Anchor Bay and the the disc you just held up there, Lucas, but this, I mean, going from that to 4K Ultra HD is just unbelievable. I mean, the look of this film, and listen, I was watching on a 4K OLED TV too on top of it. So it looked beautiful on there last night. And the colors popped and everything. But it wasn't easy trying to get the movies you guys wanted, was it?
Not really, no. And there are still movies out there that we would love to have, but we can't get them because the rights are taken. So that's always, the biggest challenge, because we have to pick from a limited pool naturally, and then you try to make the best of that. But we were really, really lucky with the films we were able to acquire, like The Case of the Bloody Iris, and we already announced The Black Belly of the Tarantula, and there's other movies that we have under contract right now. So we've been really, really lucky in that respect. But yeah, I mean, for us, it was a really interesting step because we decided, okay, we want to do this, we want to try this, give it a hand, but where do you start? And just trying to figure out how do we find out who owns the rights to some of these movies is a task in itself. It's detective work because the rights to these movies have changed hands so many times over the years. The libraries are being sold off, the companies go out of business, and then it goes into God knows what kind of escrow sometimes even, it's detective work to track down some of these films and the rights holders for them. And then to reach out to them is not trivial either because, even though you know who owns it, you have to find contact information for these companies. And sometimes it's individuals actually who have the rights. So then you reach out to them and you just hope for the best and say, well, hopefully we reach the right person and hopefully they will get back to us. And hopefully they speak English. You send an English email because sometimes you're even, you're dealing with people in Italy and you never know who's on the other end of the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an exciting thing. But then, to start seeing the list of movies come in and start getting into the negotiations, it's really, really exciting.
Okay. Something that just came to mind here real quick, because I mean, we had this problem years and years ago, in Hollywood, 1930s, 1940s, 1920s, where we lost film. I don't know how other countries have gone through their process of storing their films and stuff like that, but have we lost some good gialli out there, or is most of it still intact and there, just in a very degraded form, or have we lost some of these films?
That's a bit tricky to answer because we would only know what is available from the pool that we have actually made inquiries on.
Okay.
We have seen a number of titles from the companies that we made contact with that haven't been released in high def or anything like that since VHS days. But at the same time, there is no real information on what elements they even have anymore and whatnot. And even for some of the more well-known ones, I've seen glimpses out there that seem to indicate to me that some of the original camera elements are lost. One that sticks out in my head would be The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, because that's something that I don't think I've ever seen any company mention the original camera negatives. It was always from either an interpositive or internegative in the past, from what I've seen. Don't take my word fully for that, but it's from everything that I've seen. But for Bloody Iris, though, we were thankfully very lucky that the original camera negatives were intact, along with the trailer elements, and I believe that's and the original plates for the opening and closing credits, which was something that is, I suppose, it's not always available because of the way they created the optical texts for the credits and whatnot.
I mean, there are definitely issues. We have one film under contract right now where we try to locate certain elements, and it turns out they were lost in a flooding of a lab. Gone forever. It's like no way to bring them back. And even with something like The Case of the Bloody Iris, we worked from the original camera negative, but the condition of the negative is really, really bad. And that is part of why it took so long to do the restoration, because the film damage is not really just limited to a couple of frames here and there. There are whole stretches in that film where literally every frame was almost destroyed.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, no, I heard the process through another interview, and I'm like going, wow. I mean, what was it? You said like 135,000 frames?
Yeah. Yeah, the movie and the trailer and opening credits and all that taken together, it's about 135,000 frames.
Whew. And you went frame by
Yeah.
frame by frame.
Yes.
Okay. Real quick, Ed Stathis does have a good question. I think not a lot of people understand this. The difference between the 4K Ultra HD and a Blu-ray. Could you guys really quick just explain the difference between the two? 4K is definitely better than Blu-ray. How much better?
Well, there's two core factors involved. The first being the resolution, because obviously doubling the resolution would give you a higher ability to actually see the details and the grain and the shadows and the highlights, everything. It just gives you more to look at. Actually, three things. The second thing was bitrate. You will have a much higher bitrate on 4K discs over normal Blu-ray discs because of the way where you're working from 25 to 50 gigabytes to 66 to 100. So already in some scenarios, it would be doubling the bitrate, which in turn would mean less compression artifacts and whatnot. And the third would be the ability to have PQ gamut, which is known as HDR in layman terms. And that basically enhances the contrast. What something is normally rounded off or so, or curved off on standard definition, is more isolated in high dynamic range. So you can have proper highlights where you could actually see the innards of a light bulb shining through the bulb instead of just this general haze.
Yeah,
And Blu-ray did a little bit more compressing of their the movie itself, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and 4K in general offers a wider color range, a wider contrast range than standard Blu-ray and all that. But to get back to Ed's original question, can you play 4K on a standard Blu-ray player? No, you can't. They're two very different things. But that's also the reason why in our package we provide both a Blu-ray disc and a 4K UHD disc, so that, you know, depending on what your hardware setup is, you can play the movie on either.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And you know what? I should I guess while you're talking about let me just share some pictures here and you guys can talk about this because you guys sent me you know, a couple little extras and stuff like that too, which I thought were great. First, let me show the case itself, the movie itself. There it is. Beautiful artwork. I mean, come on. We got Edwidge Fenwick on the cover there.
Yeah, that's an original artwork we had done by Leo Pham.
Okay.
Yeah, she created an incredible artwork. She went through the entire movie to find suitable imagery and all that, and then let that influence her to create this one. And we were just floored when we saw it.
Oh, it looks beautiful. Yeah. And don't forget everybody that Celluloid Dreams logo down there in the right corner. Please go follow these guys. If the next one, man, the Black Belly of the Tarantula, I cannot wait to see that next because the thing that I noticed, again, you talked about the difference between Blu-ray and 4K. Well, Lucas said about 4K is all of the detail in this version, this copy, this restoration, the back walls, you could see every little thing. I mean, you could still see some of the like lines every now and then from film, but you could see every little detail. The pores on the face, you could see them. It comes out, it stands out, you know, and not only the color, which was beautiful, but tell me a little bit about that because I know everybody goes digital. They make things look fake. They think they're going better quality, but it ends up feeling fake. But this still had that film quality to it, and I know that that means a lot to both of you guys, and I'm glad that does because even though it's you know, restored and you can see all these details and looks beautiful, it still has that film quality to it. So you could talk a little bit about that if you want.
I mean, it's been one of the tenets that we really set down when we started Celluloid Dreams. And especially Lucas was adamant about it. His idea was, if we do this, I want to present the movies the way they looked when they were back in theaters back in the day.
Yeah.
Because home video releases have a tendency to look very different these days. And that has a lot to do with how technology evolved, how technology did not evolve, how today's workflows are. So there's a lot of stuff going on that has not always been to the benefit of the movies themselves. It makes it easier to color correct them. It makes it easier to produce them as a mass product and all that. But oftentimes we got the impression the original intent of the filmmakers was kind of lost. And Lucas in particular always said, I want to bring back the original look of these movies because that's what he loves.
Well, good for you, Lucas. Yeah, that's the way
Yeah.
it should be.
Yeah, he's a total 35 millimeter diehard fan. You know,
Same
if there's
here.
ever a chance to see any movie in 35 millimeter projected, he will run. He will be the first in line to see it.
Nice, nice.
And that comes through in the product, I think, because
100%.
guideline for us was always, we do not want this sterile, super scrubbed image, you know. We want this to look authentic to a film presentation, but a clean film presentation, not one that is marred by all the physical and mechanical problems that you have with a film presentation normally, but something that has been cleaned up and prepared to the point that you can recreate the experience, but on your TV. That's why we left the grain in. That's why we adjusted the color the way we did, because we did not orient ourselves at the existing home video releases. Instead, we took the hints from the negatives itself and all that to see what was the color timing originally intended to be for each particular shot, and then try to recreate that. And I remember Lucas would make a pass at the movie, go over it, and then, you know, the movie he's complete with it, and then we look at it and he's like, I'm not happy, I want to do this again. And he must have done that like 5, 6, 7 times over and over again, you know, because he's such a perfectionist that he really, really wanted to recreate that look.
Well, and that's good. That's a good thing. That's somebody who loves film, and I'm glad you guys stuck with your guns and did it that way. And that's why I hope Celluloid Dreams takes off and becomes something bigger than it is. You guys are just starting out. This is your first release, and I could see the love in what you're doing in the process, especially watching the movie. I can't express enough. Watching the movie, you will see, you know, the difference, the big difference in this. And you know, I've been watching Giallo films off of YouTube, off of, I mean, you know, and I still love it, you know, because I kind of love that old. Sometimes I don't mind how bad it looks sometimes, just because that's part of what I love about it. You know what I mean? But then again, when you clean it up like you guys did, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, the experience for us was the same. The reaction we had.
Yeah.
Because when you work on the negative, the original scan, the original raw scan of the negative looks very, very different than the film. And I don't know how, I don't think a lot of people know that. A negative has a very, very neutral look in itself, you know. And it's only through the color timing that is typically done in the lab when they strike their prints, that the film takes on the visual qualities that you see. So we first looked at that. For the longest time, we looked at that negative and all that. And then for the first time to see it actually properly color graded and with the cleanup in place, it was like this amazing moment where it's like, this is gorgeous. I mean, like you say, the colors and all that, the apartment scene, you know, with the walls, with the painted walls and everything. It's like, oh my God, you know, this is so drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then the whole cinematography that goes with it, because it's not only the colors and the visuals themselves, it's also the way it was shot. There are all these beautiful photography moments in there where you go like, this is so carefully designed and so carefully put together, and to see it come to life then the way we did from the negative to the corrected version and all that, that was just a major step for me.
Oh yeah, in the apartment.
I mean, you probably felt the same way.
Yeah, yeah, Lucas. Yeah, that kitchen scene when the camera set on the table and they're coming in to eat, before while she's going to take her shower. The camera set on the table looking up to where you almost don't see their faces, but you see what's going on. Just cinematography is great in a lot of these films, so especially this one for sure. Let me get the rest of these pictures out of the way just so people can see it. Um, yeah, so this is the case on the or the case on the left and the sleeve on the right. So the Blu-ray I think looks like the one on the left. Am I wrong?
I mean, it's all the same. There are
It,
two discs inside. So inside you have the Blu-ray and the 4K disc.
right. I thought they looked different though. The 4K Ultra was the Blu-ray is the cover art. Okay.
Oh, you mean the disc image itself?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I don't even remember.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, that's the 4K Ultra HD on the left. That's the way that looks, and on the right is the Blu-ray. And then you sent me. Well, I guess we should look at the back of this too. The back. I mean, you got so many features on this darn thing too that it's not even funny. And we will talk about the commentary also, but you got your choice of course, the Italian languages, the English languages, both English and Italian theatrical trailers. And there's a featurette, Flowers of Blood, with George Hilton. I actually didn't watch that. Is that worth watching? Listen, of course it's worth watching,
course,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Maryland featurette with Paolo.
Yeah, Paola
Drop.
Fatrini, yeah.
Okay, and Drops of Giallo featuring Ernesto Gastaldi. Okay, and then the commentary by Guido himself. Then the outtake reel, photo gallery. So all of that, and then you sent me this thing, my new favorite mouse pad. Does that come with anything when you get the 4K Ultra?
No, that's just a promo item.
Why, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
that is beautiful. I love that. And then let's talk about these lobby cards, which are very, very much larger than what you would think a lobby card would look like. They look fantastic too. And you gave me 5 or 6 of them. I think it was 5 of them.
That's a set of 6. Yeah.
6 of them. Okay, there you go. And they look fantastic. They look great. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got there, Lucas? Something in your hand?
No, I was just holding up here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. They all. Well, I showed them. Each one is different, of course. They're different lobby cards, and they all look great. I mean, and they're glossy. I don't think they. I mean, come on, look at that. Good job, fantastic job. I don't know who you worked with to get a lot of this done, or if you did most of it yourself.
We did all of it ourselves.
Yes, you did.
That's another tenet we have. We do it ourselves.
There you go. Yeah. Well, listen, it's a passion of yours, and being in control of every little thing is the most important thing, I think, in especially a coming up, company like yourselves, to get things the way you want them to be and to stand out amongst all of the other ones, because there's a lot of other companies out there that want to do their thing too, and some look good, some don't look so good. So there was a question I had. I know I skip all over the place. I'm sorry, you guys. But again, you went frame by frame, Guido, and there's something that popped in my head. I said, out of every single frame that you saw, was there anything, because you see every single frame, was there anything that stood out while you were going through all those 135 frames? Something that was going on in the background, something that shouldn't have been seen, or something like that?
There are a couple of instances. I mean, one of them is, and I'm mentioning that in the commentary track right in the opening as well.
Yeah.
As I'm going through the movie, and I have to really very closely examine every single frame. So I'm not only focusing on what's the focal point of the image itself, I'm always scanning the background as well. And I started to realize it's like, these people in the background, they're all looking at the camera. Everybody is staring right in the camera. And when I had watched the movie every time before, I had never noticed because I had never paid attention to it. But once you start paying attention to it, you can really see those people are all looking right in the camera. And there's also one moment in that arcade, the moment with Marilyn when she has her moment.
Yeah.
There's a lady
When she gets
who,
stabbed, yeah.
who obviously doesn't want to be in the movie because she's covering up her face and she runs into a store. And you see stuff like that. And there was one also great moment, and I turned around to Lucas and said, "Look at that. I had no idea Edwice Fenech actually has freckles." Because there is one shot sequence, and it was probably late in the day because typically she has this pancake makeup.
Yeah.
And this must probably have been late in the day, and the makeup was sort of worn off and all that, and you could actually see the freckles underneath. I said, "This is the darndest thing, I had never noticed that before."
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, you have moments like those.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Lucas.
I think my favorite moment that we both ended up finding out at a later point in time was during the finale when they have the little standoff at the end and the killer gets thrown off the stairs. And there's a brief bit that we found out through the frame-by-frame examination that you could see the safety nets for the stunt fall, because you could see the exact moment that he falls into it and his leg is sticking up in the background, behind the railing and everything. It's so brief that on a normal watch you would never see it, but you're staring, because we're staring so intently at every little part of the frame to make sure that's clean. You see this leg flailing in the corner of the screen. And that one is always stuck in my head as one of those
bouncing back into the frame
movies kind of moments.
Yeah, he's bouncing back into the frame. It's hilarious. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Well, even once it's just fully playable, or
no, it's still now. Even though I know what to look for, it's a blink and you miss it moment. So no, it doesn't stand out. But if you look at it frame by frame, it's hilarious, really, because he literally bounces right back up.
Oh, listen, I just would love that process alone, just seeing everything that was going on in the background, because there's shenanigans or there's something else. And like you said, the woman running in the arcade area, just running out of the way, which that scene in itself, I mean, I don't think he got her in the lung, but she was very quiet that whole time, stumbling over to the street. But whatever, I still love it. So the color grading, what was the toughest part for you, Lucas, while doing that?
I would say mainly creating the proper workflow that gets me consistent results with relative ease, because every grader or gradist or restoration artist in general will try to create their own pipeline or workflow to try and make sure that everything is as intuitive and easy for them as possible. And trying to get the look right, the baseline contrast and the baseline color setup from the negative to the final grade was incredibly tedious, because as Guido mentioned earlier, where it's like I've done far too many passes of that movie, and to this day I still kind of wish I could have more time to iron it out. Because I was mainly trying to go for the look of a release positive, because that goes back to the whole thing where negatives, they do have a look of their own, and it's only when they go through the full lab process from original camera negative to an interpositive where the timing gets baked in, and then it goes to a few other generations to the final release print that gets sent out to all the theaters in the day. And that had a very specific level of color and contrast that you don't really see that much anymore. and it's a very different look than most releases. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with the look of trying to capture the negative itself,
Mhm.
but it's a very distinct look that I felt was sorely lacking in the industry. And there are some companies out there, or some restoration studios, that try to do this, but they also don't manage to fully capture the look right for normal displays or so, which is why you will see a number of times where people will say, oh, this might look too yellow or too teal as a result. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's a tricky thing to get right. And it's something that I hope will be able to, that in general, the whole industry will be able to sort of adapt to, because we are seeing more and more of it come through with better results over the years. It's just one of those things where I feel like it's only more manageable with modern high dynamic range color grading tools, alongside with the fact that in order to get the look right, you usually would need to have a positive reference, and that's exceedingly rare for a lot of these very specific genre movies. Um, with Bloody Iris, that in particular was a lot of inference work over
Okay.
over the years from what you see of past releases and such. So that in itself is kind of a tricky thing to get looking right.
I mean, there's also a side effect that comes from that, which is interesting to observe. Audiences and buyers of home video have been conditioned to a certain look these days, because DVD releases, Blu-ray releases, and all that have presented these movies in a certain way. And that way is not necessarily representative of what the film originally looked like. So now here we come with a mission to restore the original theatrical presentation, and suddenly we find ourselves in hot water because people say, hey, this looks all wrong because this is not how the movie is supposed to look like. The crux of the matter is that people, I mean, let's put it this way. This movie is over 50 years old, 52, 53 years, something like that. If you saw that in theaters back then, there is no way you would remember now what it really looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, people have a tendency to just rely on what they're familiar with. But when we go back, for example, and we try to locate prints, reference prints, or even lab notes that the director left about the color timing for these films, that gives us the ability to really go in there and determine this is what this was supposed to look like. In the camera negative also, you often see subtle hints of gelling and all that, where you know they are trying to push the coloring, the lighting in a certain direction. And if you're not very, very careful, you miss these clues, these visual clues, as you're doing your color grading or as you're doing, your work. And all of a sudden, the whole coloring or the whole color tone of a shot shifts. And that's why it was so important for us to make sure we try to stay as faithful to the original theatrical presentation as we possibly could.
Okay, because yeah, I mean, I definitely listen. We all know that Giallo is about color and color grading. I was going to ask Lucas how much of influence that just the genre itself was into color grading this film, because the elevator scene alone, I mean, how much that color just boom pops in this restoration, and I love it. It looks great. So yeah.
Nightmare scene.
It's it's not so much a matter of looking at it from a genre perspective. It's more of a matter of looking at it in a medium perspective. Because again, it goes back to how release prints have a very distinct look to them that is just inherently tied to said medium. And granted, it's a little tricky trying to figure out, the exact hue or tone of a scene or so. So, and we've done the best that we could. But what this meant was inherently, because of the print format, you would get these very deep saturated blues that really, really shine in some of those nighttime scenes. And then furthermore, from inference clues, you sort of have to piece together, okay, this shot is gelled blue, or like you have blue lighting coming in from the window. And then you have Marilyn walking out onto the balcony. That's lit blue from the outside, but lit normally on the inside. And then suddenly in the next shot, originally on the camera negative, that was completely neutrally lit. There was not a trace of blue on that one shot. But then it goes back to the balcony shot where it was lit blue again with the interior being neutral again. And that was one of those moments where it's like, okay, that's definitely a timing issue, where we had to change the neutral tone to the blue to match up with the blue tone of the balcony.
Okay.
And that's part of the process.
Okay. So I mean, with these negatives and stuff like that, there's not a whole lot. Is there some guessing on the color grading, like what colors should be there, or is there always some kind of clue or some reference to what the color is?
I would say that would depend on what you have available.
Okay.
For Bloody Iris, there was more ballpark working, admittedly.
Okay.
But for movies where you would have a reference print, you would be able to actually recreate those tones fairly similarly. And there is something that we have down the line that we mentioned earlier, where it's like we have contracts for other movies as well as the ones that we have announced so far. And right now we're in the middle of actually locating such a positive that should be unfaded after all these years, from the 70s, which is wonderful to hear. And I am very excited to be able to cross-reference that once we get to that project.
Okay, very nice. Can I ask you, are you guys going to stick for the time being with some of these, Giallo classics, or are you guys going to broaden your, horizon here with other movies? Because I want to see more restored Giallo films, but I'm not sure what you guys are thinking.
We're trying to see if we can get a hold of other licenses outside of the Giallo genre. But at the same time, though, that's been rather tricky between, as we mentioned very early on, between the companies and the limited licensing pool, but also because it is, in general, less accessible, we would argue. And right now, it's kind of a matter where we kind of have to stick with the Giallo genre for the time being, and there are plenty of movies that we can touch on in that regard. But we have been hunting for other licenses to other movies, and from the very start, actually, we were trying to see what other genres we could touch. And one that we actually were considering, what genre-wise, would be krimis, actually.
Okay, yeah, the precursor, right? Yeah. Not a lot of people know about that, but it was a bit of a criminal element to. It's a whole different thing altogether, really. I started watching a couple, and there's always a sidekick. It's more criminal and crime than anything, but really, it's where it started to turn into a little bit more of a sleazy, and then we got Giallo. But yeah, no, that would be awesome too to see some of those restored. There are some good copies of Creamy films out there. Go ahead, Guido.
Yeah, krimis are essentially gialli before they became gialli.
Right.
You can see the kernel of it there, and it grew from there into something as time progressed, because the krimis come out of the 60s, and then as you get into the 70s, it becomes
Different country
more,
too.
more graphic and all that, and they play with color a lot more. But you can often see the seeds. We were just watching some krimis the other night, and you can tell. It's like, this is the precursor. This is where it all germinated and came from.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they halted with their movie production altogether, and then we got, oh God, what was the studio that just spawned off all these Giallo films? what's the company's name? The movie company. You guys remember?
You mean the Italian, the Giallo?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Italian. Yeah.
There's Titanus.
No. It's okay. No biggie. Because I know there was an Italian, French kind of, combined movie company that technically kicked off the Giallo films. And Rialto, is it Rialto?
Well, Rialto is the Crimi.
Is it?
Rialto is
Okay.
a German company, and they made all those Crimis back in the day, yes. But
Okay.
then once it turned into Giallo, it became more of an Italian thing, or it became an Italian thing, and then you had these Italian production companies. But I can't think of any standout name in the Italian productions right now, because it seems like every film was produced by a different
Oh, was it really?
studio and all that.
Okay, it
I
could
mean,
I could have been confused.
Elios Studios was involved a lot, but that was mostly for the sets and for the shooting locations and all that, not so much for the productions.
Okay. It's been a little while since I dove into any Creamy, but I think that's what I'm getting confused, because
Yeah.
it was that company that
Yeah.
kind of did their thing, and then it just halted because
Yeah, that was Rialto.
Okay, there you go. Hey, Dave Plouffe, what's going on? Check out me and Dave tomorrow night with Kolchak, episode 14. The black belly of the tarantula. I know you guys have started on this, probably, right? I'm not sure how close you are to being done, but are we going to? How often are we going to get something from you guys?
Not too often.
Okay.
Because, I mean, like
And
we
that's all
talked
right.
about earlier, it takes a long time to prepare these movies, and we don't want to rush ourselves. We want to really make sure that we give these films the full attention and make them live up to the full potential that they have. So it takes time. We are going at our own pace, let's put it that way. And, with these productions, sometimes what happens as you start working on them, new information materializes, and you go like, oh, look at that. I mean, that would make an attractive feature. This would make a great addition or so. So sometimes plans really change, and as you go along. But we'll see. It's hard to say right now. We've started working on it. We've started working on other films as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll keep people posted on our social media, as to the progress and what to expect.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody, check out the description below, where all the links to Facebook, Instagram, their website, celluloid-dreams.net, and that's the place where I would say is the best place to buy their DVD, or not DVD, their Blu-ray or Ultra 4K. That's where you would buy it, but it's on Amazon, other places. Links are down there. Please give it a check. How are other companies like looking at you right now? I mean, you've got to be getting a lot of positive feedback on this thing. I mean, this is your first one, and I mean, come on, you guys. This looks like you guys have been doing this for years and years. And are there companies like pushing back on you, saying, "Listen, we don't want no competition or nothing like that"? But how has everything been going with that?
I haven't gotten that sense yet at all.
Okay.
I haven't talked to anybody, I have to admit, since we released the title. But before that, I've been in touch with a lot of the folks from other studios. I know a lot of the people in some of the other studios for a very long time. But again, I haven't talked to them recently. When we reached out on occasion because we had questions or problems, or were just asking for help once or twice, it was always a very, very friendly relationship. We never got the sense that there's this competitive thinking. It was always, hey, you know what? This is a small pool. We're all in this together. Let's all try to make the best of it. So there seems to be a nice camaraderie, from what I can tell.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And Lucas, listen, I did some research. I know you didn't go to school. Well, did you go to school for? You didn't go to school for color grading, right?
No, but it is something that I practiced when I was in college and whatnot, as a side thing.
Okay, because where I was going with this and is the great job you did with this is anybody trying to pull you away already from Celluloid Dreams and say, hey, let's go. I mean, it might help with, you know, supplying some money for what you guys got going, but anyways, have they?
Not to my
Guido's
knowledge.
going. They better not. No.
Hey, it's his company, not mine.
Okay. Okay.
The irony, I will say, was originally I did try to get a job as a colorist. I tried looking
Right.
around at some of the existing companies because I've been studying the look of film prints and whatnot for a long time now as a personal fan of the medium, that I wanted to try and see if I can give it a shake at any company. But unfortunately, all of the companies that I came in contact with, they were already happy with their own colors, and that's entirely understandable if they have their own setup worked out already and whatnot,
Yeah.
But it was kind of from that where I kind of had to take a minute to sit down and think, where it's okay, what are other possible career paths that could fall that would still leave me close to both not only the color grading as a job or so in general, but also just in general something close to film and film home video. And that ended up down the thought of how hard would it be to try and get a hold of one of these licenses? How expensive would it be? And that became its whole adventure, as you can see.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure there were years of prepping before you even started the process, right, Guido?
I mean, it was the whole process. Let's put it this way. We started about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 18 months. The first 6 months were really prep work. It was the making a business plan, working out the financials, getting information. How does the business work? How does the industry work? Approaching licensors and all that to get a general idea for the numbers. What are licensing fees? How are these agreements structured? Getting quotes for production. How much does it cost to produce a Blu-ray disc or a 4K disc? How much does it cost to create packaging, shipping? The lobby cards. We had these ideas all worked out already before we even had the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get a sense and a solid understanding of what are we getting ourselves into financially.
Yeah.
And then once we had all that worked out, we looked at the numbers, ran different scenarios, and said, okay, how much do we need to sell in order to make this work? And again, because we didn't have information from the actual market, we reached out to distributors and talked to them and said, okay, what's a realistic sales number for a title like this? Are we looking at, I don't know, X or Y? And they would say, well, this is the amount we can sell. Historically, these titles are super niche, and that's how we went about it. But at the end of the day, it became clear that, yeah, we can do this. We can make this work. At least we can try. It's not one of those things where you immediately say there is no way this can ever become profitable or anything. It was a moment where we said, okay, we can try. It's not impossible, and it's not unreasonable to assume this could work.
Okay. Well, I mean, best of luck. I mean, like I said, hopefully this. I mean, has things started off? I know it just started. Sales are just out there, but I can just imagine that diehards are out there grabbing these things up really fast, right?
We're really happy. We're really happy with the response, with both the sales and the response that we're getting, both from the fans and from reviewers. I mean, all the reviews we've had so far were all really, 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 really nice. I mean, really
good. Yeah, I mean, how can it not be? I mean, again, I'm a nobody. I'm somebody, but I'm a nobody. I'm not in no business of doing this type of stuff. But I can't say how much I love what I see already, and I want it to continue. You know what I mean? So again, best of luck to you. Last thing I want to talk about here real quick, because I don't think people understand about the commentaries that are on these DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, whatever it is. There is, I mean, listen, I'm sure some people do some crappy commentary. I've done some in my 9 years on YouTube. I mean, I've done hundreds of commentaries myself, but there's a whole lot that goes into this, and you want to make sure you get your facts down, research things, so you're just not sitting there just going, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. You know, you really want to get some facts out there and have some quality. And this really does have, because I listened to that too, watched the movie again and listened this morning, and you did a fantastic job, Guido, on that. Talk a little bit about that before I let you guys go. I know it's been about an hour here, so.
It sort of overwhelmed me, I have to admit, because yeah, my initial thought was, when we were talking about it, we were like, okay, we'll just watch the movie and I'll talk while I watch it, you know, whatever comes to mind, this train of thought kind of thing.
Yeah.
It became obvious very, very quickly, this is not going to work. So it became more of a scripted thing, that I was like, okay, I need to pinpoint certain things and I want to research certain things. So it turned into this really big thing where I did a lot of research. I mean, I don't know how many pages of research I have, but it's a huge document, you know.
Yeah.
And I made lists of everything that stuck out to me when I was watching the movie. It's like, oh, here, he's referencing a book, he's referencing a stamp, he's doing this, they're drinking this and that. So I made note of all these things just so I could follow up later and see, is there any relevance to that? And for me personally, it's always exciting to see if something appears in the movie, is this real or is this fake? If they're referencing something, did this really happen, or did somebody just, you know, the writer just make that up? If the actor is playing a musical instrument, does he actually play that, or is this just make-believe? So all these things I took note, researched them meticulously one by one, you know, and then tried to put it all in sort of a chronological order, into a flow, looked at the movie, where does which fit, and then, you know, you start recording, and you record it again, and you record it again and again. I mean, the whole commentary track I must have recorded, I don't know, 5-6 times before I was happy with it.
Yeah.
And it became a very tedious process and a very lengthy process, but I'm very happy with the result. But we even made last minute changes, you know. I had it all wrapped up and I was happy and all that, and Lucas listened to it and he was like, I don't know if people really want to know that. It took me all that work and all that, but sitting back and thinking about it, I was like, yeah, you're probably right, you know. And I changed it. I used something else in its stead, and I'm glad I did. I have to be honest. It was the opening, for example. As soon as the movie starts, talking about the opening of what's going on and all that, I had a completely different bit in there. But I'm glad I changed it and talk about Evi Farinelli and her whole role and part in all of this, because I had not talked about that in my original version.
Okay.
But as I was re-recording it, I was like, this is relevant. You know, the fact that she is beaming, the fact that she's coming across as so natural and you can see all her emotions in these opening shots, I think is worth pointing out. And then the fact that everybody, that she's turning heads on the street, that everybody she passes turns around and follows her, you know, and looks around, and everybody's staring in the camera at the same time. I was like, this is what makes this movie. This is the magic sauce that puts it all together, and not that thing I wanted originally to talk about. So I'm glad, you know, we had this kind of editorial review process that Lucas and I had established for this. And we tossed that out and said, okay, I'm going to do this again.
Yeah, I think the commentary, if you're a fan of a film and you really get a good commentary on the movie itself, I mean, it's basically goes down in history if it lasts that long, or for however long it lasts. If you listen to the commentary, you get all these bits of information that you wouldn't get anywhere else just by sitting there and watching the movie. If you're a fan, you got all these little bits and extras, you know. So
the biggest challenge for me was, for example, with the commentary track, many times I just wanted to hit the pause button so that I could point out, look at that, you know, there is something right there and you missed it. And in the commentary you talk and the movie continues and the moment is over. It's like, you know, it's like, how am I going to explain that to people? Because they probably didn't see it, you know. But you know, what can you do? It's the nature.
Well, you can do well, like a 3-hour long where you can pause it and
Yeah.
you come back on screen,
Yeah.
you go, listen, see
Yeah.
this right here? I mean, because there are, like you said, lots of things you can definitely point out, and it
Yeah.
would be nice to stop there and talk
Yeah.
about it. But
Yeah.
as long as we got the commentary, that's great. And I would tell anybody who's a fan of a movie to listen to the commentary track on these things, and you would not believe, what you miss or things that you would learn about the film, and it just makes you appreciate the film a lot more. So
Yeah. And the
um,
people who make it, you know.
yes.
As I point out in the commentary at one point, it's like anytime you look at at the frame from this movie,
Mhm.
there are 1,000 movie credits on your screen. You know, the people who've been working on this collectively have created over 1,000 films, and that is a staggering number. I mean, when I just first added them up, you know, because at first I'm looking at the individual actors and it's like, oh, he worked on 200 films, she worked on 150 films, and all that. Those are big numbers already
Yeah.
even by Hollywood standards, or Hollywood standards are much, much lower, as a matter of fact. But then you suddenly have all these people on the screen at the same time, and what seems like an innocuous little moment is actually a really big cinematic moment, because all these people are so relevant in their professions that it's hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
Yeah, no, the amount of people involved is unbelievable. Lucas, last question to you guys before you go. Happy with everything and looking forward to the future here. Listen, I hope there's a lot more Giallo films to come, but I don't care how long it takes. I got the time. It's fine. Um, so what are you looking forward to, just continuing this, getting this as big as possible?
I definitely look forward to the opportunities that we'll be able to get to look at between stuff I that I may personally love, that I've noticed, or it's like that didn't really get enough of a spotlight, I think, over the years and whatnot. As well as opportunities where it's like, that's different, that's interesting, and I wouldn't have ever heard of it otherwise if it wasn't for the fact that I see this being here, and as I'm going through everything that is currently available in the market for said title, I am realizing there is something here. There is something worth digging out from the archives to present to home viewers. And yeah, there's definitely a handful of movies that I would love to put out, and I can only hope that that the future will be able to present us with the opportunity to do so.
You're a good start, man. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
Good start.
one of the things, if I may, real quick,
Yes.
because it just popped to my mind, what is absolutely amazing and has hit home only recently after we released the title.
Mhm.
I was talking to a friend of mine who is a filmmaker, and I sent him the package, and he checked it out, and his comment was, "You guys saved a classic."
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I mean,
Yeah.
I look at that, and it's this moment where you realize suddenly we have become part of the history of this movie,
Yep.
and we really made a difference. And I
Oh,
think that is really worth the time, the effort, and whatever else it takes.
yep. No, 100%. And I think if Lucas, if you do continue down this path, and Guido too, restoring all of these. I mean, Lucas, you alone, and say 30 years from now, whatever. I mean, you've been in the business, you've been restoring films. People are going to be coming to you talking about, I mean, all the stuff that you learn from going through everything that you go through restoring a film, like he said, frame by frame, color grading, the sounds, the information you learn. People be coming to you and asking you questions about, everything you've learned and, in these movies that you've restored over the years. So I look forward to down the line, what's to come, and your part in history and filmmaking. So yeah, keep it up.
Thank you. That'll be
You're welcome.
certainly interesting at that point in time.
I know it's hard to look that far down the road, but you know what I mean. It's something I do. I'm like going, you keep up with this stuff. The things people learn, doing what you guys are doing is just unbelievable. Any last words from either one of you before I let you go?
Wow. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was a wonderful time here to talk with you,
Yeah.
to anyone who's watching us right now.
Yep. Thank you very much. And again, I would tell everybody, please check out the description below. Yeah, you got to say that a million times. Just where do I go? Where's the film? I still get that. And I said it 50 times. It's in the description below. And you just look up Celluloid Dreams. It'll come up, I'm sure, somewhere.
Yeah.
So
and you get
yeah.
the cool lobby cards and the slip cover and all that with direct orders from our website. So yeah, get it.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. So to get those things, it would have to go through the orders through your website then, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if they order from Amazon, they wouldn't get those little extras.
Nope. They're
Okay.
just getting the regular disc.
Okay, which is just fine. But listen, I'm telling you guys, I almost want to take this mouse pad, frame it, and put it up and behind me or something. Along with all my other things back on the wall. If there's room. But yeah, no, it's an awesome job you guys did, and I know it came from the heart. That's the biggest thing. These films are just so different. Giallo, especially, that's what I'm talking about. So different than anything in the genre itself. As you know, I mean, Lucas loves Giallo, so and Guido. It's just something you either fall in love with or you don't get it, I guess. You know what I mean? So I love it, man. I fell in love with it, and thank you guys for doing what you're doing. Okay, I will let you guys go. Have a good evening, and best of luck in the future, and holler out when your next one comes out. Definitely.
Will do.
Okay,
Thanks
you
for
guys
watching, everyone. Bye.
take care, you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, there you go, you guys. Celluloid Dreams. You have got to check that out because, like I said, I watched that last night and it was fantastic. I watch these movies a million times and it's fine. Let's see. Lucas, I don't know if you're hanging around or if you want to, you could just close out the browser if you're leaving. Yeah, unless you're hanging around. Listen, I don't know. I'm going to be on for another 10, 15 minutes or so, but yeah. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Definitely an excellent film. Yeah, Edward, I'm not sure you watched it, but yeah, definitely get the Blu-ray and all that, this set, because it is fantastic. But anyways, me and tomorrow, I'll be there in a second. Me and Dave Plouffe tomorrow. It's Columbo, not Kolchak. Kolchak is going to be after the following week. But thank you guys for all joining tonight. I will catch you on the live stream in a couple hours, 9, 10, in 1 hour.